Hello Internet, welcome to the Nerd Sanctuary. This is Yami, and today we're looking at the Narukami standard deck for the V series. This deck is mostly based around Tectonics Drill Dragon, but I got a few other stuff in here. So let's just go through it. We got our standard starter. They do all the starters do basically the same thing. There are a few zeros that don't do it, but one wrote upon draw card. After that, we got 4 copies of Wyvern Guard Gold. He is the grade 0 draw perfect card. After that, we have 8 criticals. Honestly, with whether you're running criticals or front triggers, it is all up to personal preference. I prefer criticals because more often than not, when you pull a trigger, you're surprising someone and you want to give all that much more damage to them. I speak English good. Following that, we got 4 heal triggers. And that ends it for the grade zeros. Yeah, my mind is frazzled today. After that, we have 3 copies of Lizard Soldier Riki. With the skill that when placed, Soul Blast 1 card. This unit gets plus 3,000 until the end of the turn. And you can switch your opponent's rear guards between the front row and the back row. This is good for various reasons. Like, most Narukami stuff only retire or bind front row rear guards. And some others gain bonuses based on how many rear guards are in the front row. So if you need to move stuff around to retire it, or move stuff around to clear up the front field, this is a good card to have for that. After that, got 4 copies of Demolition Dragon, and it has the continuous rear guard skill. If there are no rear guards in your opponent's front row, this unit gets plus 3,000 power. And the Vanguard skill that when its attack hits, draw a card. So, as far as grade 1s go, I'd say you probably want this guy to be your Vanguard for that turn, just so you can get that draw off. Following that, I have 4 copies of Rising Phoenix. And Rising Phoenix has the skill from the drop zone. It's an auto skill. When your opponent's rear guard is bound during your turn, you can call this card to the rear guard. If you do, this unit gets plus 3,000. So I like this version of Rising Phoenix better than the original, because this one actually, it still kind of works in with the mythology of the Phoenix constantly being reborn. I shouldn't have to explain to you guys why this Rising Phoenix is good. Ending off the grade 1s, we got 2 copies of Lightning of Hope Helena. And this card has the auto rear guard once per turn skill. When your opponent's rear guard is bound during your turn, if you have no face-up cards in your damage zone, Soul Blast 1 and counter charge. So this is good for, getting your costs back to use for other abilities. Starting off the grade 2s, I have 4 copies of Dragonic Death Scythe. And this card has the auto rear guard ability that when it's placed, Soul Blast 2 cards, choose a rear guard in your opponent's front row, bind it, and this unit gets plus 3,000 until the end of the turn. He also has the continuous rear guard skill during the battle that it attacked the Vanguard. If your opponent does not have a rear guard in the front row of the same column as this unit gets plus 5,000 power. This is the card you don't want to put in an Excel spot, unless you're playing against another Excel deck, in which case it's kind of a push on that. But if you're fighting against a Force or a Protect deck, this card would be great in the Excel spot. Because since your opponent doesn't have the same column as this unit, it would get that 5,000 power, plus it'd get the 10,000 from being on an Excel spot. By itself, it'd be at a 24,000 power. Very good card to have. Following that, we got 4 copies of Recklessness Dragon. And this card came in the trial deck, just like a Lizard Soldier Riki did from the grade 1s. And these are the cases of the trial deck cards being some of the better ones, better than what you get in a booster. But Recklessness has the Vanguard and rear guard ability. When placed, Counterblast 1, choose a rear guard in your opponent's front row and bind it. And the rear guard skill that when it attacks a Vanguard, if your opponent's front row has 1 or less rear guards, this unit gets plus 3,000. Pretty good. I mean, it's honestly the the binding skill that makes this card worth it. Ending off the grade 2s, we have 3 copies of Dusty Plasma Dragon, which in this reboot is not just specifically for Vermilion. But this has the auto once per turn rearguard skill, that when your opponent's rearguard is bound during your turn, you may have 2 of your rearguards in the same column as this unit gets plus 5,000 until the end of the turn. So this is quite possibly the worst grade 2 to put on its cell spot, mainly because you lose one of its abilities. Like, you can give the power to this card and the card behind it, if it still goes off. Starting with the grade 3s, which some of you who may have been counting what was in what through the rest of this profile may notice that I'm actually like 2 short on my grade 1s, and that's because they're right here in the grade 3s. I run 9. Or no, there's 1 short in the grade 1s. So, starting off the grade 3s, I have 4 copies of Tectonic Drill Dragon. And he has the auto Vanguard once per turn skill, that when it attacks a Vanguard, counterblast 1, choose a rearguard in your opponent's front row, and bind it. And then you get the ability to discard the same number of cards from your hand as the number of your opponent's rearguards. And at the end of that battle, stand this card, it gets plus 5,000 power and minus 1 drive until the end of the turn. So, this card is the ace of the deck. Like, being able to attack again is always great, especially if it's a Vanguard attack. So, moving on from that, I run 3 copies of Dragonic Kaiser Vermilion. If you want, I think Steiner is considered to be a better option because it has that Counterblast 1 for binding skill, and also has a pseudo break ride skill. But personally, I feel Vermilion's better if you're going against, if you're planning on going against like other Excel decks because of his skill. Well, like I said, I run 3 Vermilion, and he has the skill. The active once per turn Vanguard skill, Counterblast 2, and this unit gets plus 5,000 and 1 critical until the end of the turn. But if there are 2 or more rearguards in your opponent's front row, instead of getting a plus 1 critical, when this unit would attack, it battles all the units in the front row. So this is best if you're going against another Excel deck, like, because they'll have quite possibly 4 rearguards with 2 Excel spots. Phone went off. So in that case, you get to wipe out a good amount of their field, and if they don't have that, then this is an extra critical. Ending off the grade 3s and ending off this deck video, I run 2 copies of Great Composure Dragon. This is the card from the trial deck, the main grade 3 of that trial deck. But for those of you who don't know, it has the auto Vanguard and Rearguard skill that at the beginning of you or your opponent's battle phase, this unit gets plus 3,000 until the end of the turn for each open rearguard in your opponent's front row. And if it's your turn, this unit gets plus 5,000 instead of plus 3,000. This is good as a rearguard on the Excel spot, or even as the Vanguard, because it still is able to be highly offensive, but still very defensive when you're being attacked. As long as your opponent doesn't refill their spots. And that is about it. I've been waiting so long for the Narukamis to come back, ever since the reboot started. Narukami has always been my favorite clan. They play a little different now, but it's not necessarily bad. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Suggest me other things to do. Like, I'm always looking for new decks to build, so let me know what you want to see, and maybe I'll do it. Until next time, see you guys later.